Hey, everybody, welcome to Healed Ho Called. Today's guest is Sandy Storm, a survivor, author, speaker, and anti human trafficking advocate on the mission to end exploitation and protection of the vulnerable. After surviving more than 20 years of human trafficking, Sandy now equips law enforcement, educators, health professionals, and faith leaders in communities with the tools they need to recognize, respond, and prevent trafficking. Combining lived experience with nearly 2 decades of professional work in counter trafficking field, she brings a unique perspective that moves people from awareness to action. So join me as we talk about truth, healing, and justice, and what it will take to end human trafficking forever. So welcome, Sandy.
Hi, Wendy. Thank you so much for the opportunity to address your audience and bring some hope, shine a light, and tell the truth about human trafficking.
Absolutely. So I'd love for you to start with how you dedicated your life to ending human trafficking. What problem are you most passionate about solving, and why has this become your life's mission?
Oh, that's a great question. I am so passionate about ending human trafficking. It drives me out of bed every day. I was a victim of human trafficking for 20 years, starting at just 6 years old. And I know what it's like to live through that pain. I know what it's like to feel the hopelessness. And I know what it's like to feel invisible, to think that nobody can see me. So, the reason I'm so passionate about this work is on March 18th, 2004, I got free. That's the day I gave my life to Jesus, and he gave me a brand new life in return. And I've been living this new life with him ever since. I'm in his kingdom now, and I'm experiencing things according to his will, according to his plan, according to his word. And when I read the word, I see my responsibility to seek justice. I see my calling as a Christian to bring the righteousness of God's kingdom to this earth. And I know that he does not desire for any of his children to be bought and sold as commodities. And that passion inside of me is what drives me to fulfill God's plan and purpose for my life. That this I believe he gave me the story about being a victim of trafficking and getting free from that situation and the ability to tell it for a reason. And he is not going to waste it. He is going to use it not only to bring his kingdom forth on this earth, but he's using me to bring an end to human trafficking. I work directly with law enforcement and other professionals to help them understand how traffickers operate so that we can truly stop it from happening, hold those traffickers and the buyers accountable, and make buying and selling of bodies and souls something of the past.
That is so amazing. And we know that there's so many misconceptions about trafficking. It's not like the movie Taken. Um, what do you wish more people understood about how trafficking actually happens and why it often remains hidden in plain sight?
It does remain hidden in plain sight. Trafficking is happening all around us every day. I was trafficked starting at 6 years old in places like country clubs in a suburban neighborhood. I was taken to the yacht club or to fancy parties and houses on the water, on sailboats. And that was a daily reality for me. I was being trafficked, traded by my mother and my stepdad, and they had a ring of friends that wanted to abuse children. I wasn't the only child who was being abused, but I went to school every day. I was in the gifted and talented class. I excelled in school. I was the teacher's pet, and I was really good at bringing other little girls home from school with me. We lived on the same street as the junior high school. So that trafficking happened in a suburban neighborhood. We had brand new cars in the driveway. It looked like we had arrived in a successful life. And
Mhm.
I walked right past these houses and nobody ever saw what was happening to me every day.
Mhm.
As I grew and became a young girl and a teenager, trafficking looked a lot different, but it was still happening right out in plain sight. I wasn't chained to a basement wall. I wasn't picked up in a van and, a white unmarked van in a parking lot of a grocery store. It actually was a lot more methodical, and these traffickers have an ability to identify vulnerabilities. And if your audience hears nothing else from me today, I think it's crucial that people understand Traffickers are master manipulators. They look for opportunities to exploit a vulnerability for their own financial gain. And they'll take advantage of any vulnerability. Sometimes the vulnerability might be homelessness, sometimes it might be poverty, sometimes it might be a drug addiction. And the traffickers will create these realities for people. They'll create that drug addiction or create that unstable home life. Sometimes youth itself is a vulnerability. And because we can't just take all the 13 or 14-year-olds and the vulnerable people in our communities and shield them from these manipulators, shield them from these predators, we need to be able to identify the patterns that the predators engage in when they're targeting, grooming, and exploiting the vulnerable. So that's what I'm passionate about, working with law enforcement to build prosecutable cases so that we can put those traffickers and the buyers behind bars where they belong. When we can stop them from exploiting a vulnerable person, we can stop that trafficking from happening. And it also raises the risk in the marketplace so that others who might be interested in breaking these laws or committing these crimes, maybe they'll be less inclined to do so as they see more and more arrests.
Oh, that's awesome. And so now when you talk about creating light bulb moments for professionals and communities, what is one truth that completely changes how people understand this issue once they hear it?
That's a great question. And I recently released a book called The Truth About Human Trafficking. And throughout that entire book, there are sprinkled light bulb moments where there's an aha, like, I understand, I can see clearly in the darkness now. And I think that the biggest aha moment that most professionals need is that these traffickers are going to leverage any vulnerability they can find. They are going to look for somebody who is vulnerable, and their methodology is to exploit that vulnerability so that they can gain something. Maybe they're going to gain finances. Maybe they're going to gain drugs. They're going to get something out of somebody else being exploited. That's what human trafficking is. That's what is happening right now to young people in our communities every day. The internet makes it even easier for these traffickers to connect with vulnerable people. This is an unprecedented time. For the first time in the history of our world, there is a capability now for somebody with bad intentions to be in a personal, face-to-face conversation with a vulnerable young person in the privacy of that kid's bedroom using a cell phone, some kind of an electronic device, a game console system. And these predators present themselves as friends. They present themselves as someone that can be trusted, and they are absolutely despicable, evil people who are trying to exploit a vulnerable child or a vulnerable young person for their own financial gain. And we have to know that the truth that this is happening, and we have to know how to talk to our kids, how to talk to teenagers, how to establish that rapport so that we can help those young people, those vulnerable people, to recognize the red flags when a predator is trying to target them or to groom them or to exploit them, and then help them to protect themselves and have somebody that they can talk to about it. So if you're a parent, I know your audience is really varied backgrounds, but there's got to be parents out there listening to me right now. There's got to be grandparents, caregivers, aunts, uncles, people who care about children. If you care about children and you want to protect them, then let them know about the dangers that they face using the internet, being online, using chat apps, or playing video games. There are bad people, predators that use those same tools, those same apps that are trying to exploit vulnerable people. And if you can just start talking to the teenagers, start talking to the young people that you care about those dangers, and build a bridge so that they can trust you, so that they will come and talk to you if and when those things happen, you're going to help them to navigate those situations and to make better choices and help to protect themselves.
That's really helpful. And so I know that you've worked with law enforcement, military intelligence educators, healthcare providers, and faith leaders. Why is a multidisciplinary Multidisciplinary approach so critical if we're serious about ending trafficking?
Not one person can do it all. There is no superhero with a cape flying in to save the day. Despite of what a lot of anti-trafficking nonprofits might tell you, there's no one person that or organization or agency that is the solution to ending human trafficking. We have to all work together, whether that's a front lines uh, law enforcement that is working in a task force to arrest a trafficker, to arrest a buyer, to rescue a victim who's being bought and sold, whether that is the emergency room staff who identifies the signs that a victim of trafficking is in their ER and they notify the authorities so that they can get assistance to help that vulnerable person who's being exploited to escape the situation. Now, when I was 12 years old, there was an educator who helped me. So somebody who worked in the education field was able to understand what was happening, that I had been trafficked in my own home for 6 years, and she's the one that alerted law enforcement. So all of these people working together can work as a part of the solution to build a safety net for the vulnerable. And then on the aftercare side, once a victim of trafficking is recovered, we are going to need specialized care, therapy, maybe some resources outside of what people might expect. But when you've had everything stripped away, when you've been completely demoralized, dehumanized, and turned into a product, it's a process to find the reality of who you are again. It's not an easy thing. Survivors are very resilient. And there might be survivors listening to this, and I want to encourage and speak life over you if you survive something like human trafficking, like sexual assault, like rape, like incest. If you've survived something like that, you are a resilient overcomer, and I want to encourage you. But there's no shame in asking for help and finding support through mental health care, maybe different medical avenues to treat some of the unique and genuinely, different outcomes of the complex trauma that we've experienced. And so the wraparound service model, the multidisciplinary team model, has been proven to be the most effective in not only answering immediately the need to arrest the traffickers and the buyers, to identify the victims, but also to build those avenues of care in the wraparound services for survivors in aftercare as well.
So your story includes extraordinary pain, but it also includes extraordinary redemption. How has your relationship with Jesus shaped your healing, your freedom, and the work you're doing today?
I gave my life to Jesus on March 18th, 2004. And in return, he gave me a brand new life. I gave him the broken life, the life that was full of pain, the life that was full of agony. And in return, he gave me life in his kingdom. I get to be with him every day, venturing deeper into his kingdom and into his love. I get to read his word every day. I get to, with my husband of almost 23 years, my very best friend, we worship him every day. My husband is an incredible worship leader, guitarist, songwriter, and he plays a song. We pray together and we read the word together out loud every single day. And that's the cadence of my life. And that's just the appetizer. I get to go deeper and to spend even more time with the Lord throughout the day. And he truly does guide my steps. He connected us, Wendy. He's the one that divinely connected us and presented this opportunity to share just a story of hope and the message that no matter what your life has looked like, no matter how bad the pain has been, there's always hope through Christ and the work that he did for us on the cross. He is familiar with pain in a way that none of us could ever truly fully understand. But he gives us an opportunity to share in his sufferings. And today, the work that he's called me to, it isn't always easy. And I can't imagine doing it without him. I have to have his love filling me every day. I have to have his instruction. I have to have his marching orders, and that I have to find that through a relationship with him.
Mm.
So, if I can encourage the listeners or anybody who's watching this, maybe you feel like you're being pulled towards him. Maybe you've been hearing his voice calling to you. Maybe he's been whispering. Maybe he's sent somebody to you to start telling you about who he is and his love for you. I encourage you to press into that. Question him, read his word, think about him, research him. He will respond. He's not afraid of your questions. He will answer you and he will show you a path. And he is the way. He is the truth. He really is the life. And that's the only reason I'm alive today is because of the exchange when I gave my broken life to him and he gave me a brand new life in return.
That is so encouraging and beautiful. And I know so many people would be, especially when you're in the thick of it, you're just like, I'm not quite sure I can trust that, right? Well, the beautiful part is that God is literally right here. He's in us, next to us. And it doesn't have to be anything more than just help. And it doesn't mean it's an instant, like you said, Superman in a cape. If there's anything that's more Superman in a cape, it would be Jesus Christ himself. But the point is that there's always a process to the healing and the receiving of what he's done for us and what he can do as well. So I'd love for you to share, for parents, caregivers, church leaders, and community members listening today, what warning signs should they be paying attention to, and how can they become a part of the solution?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to share some warning signs that traffickers might be targeting or grooming or exploiting the young people that your listeners care about. So, there are a lot of methods that traffickers use, but there's a common thread to all of them. They're going to break down any boundaries, they're going to destroy any healthy relationships, any safety net that that vulnerable person might have, and they're going to build themselves up as the solution to any problems. So the way that might play out is maybe there's a 12-year-old who's been getting on a video game and they've been chatting with somebody who is presenting themselves as also, a 12 or 13-year-old from a neighboring school. So they're playing this game, building this relationship, chatting, talking with this other individual, and they might be asking the predator who's presenting themselves falsely as a teenager who's the same age as your kid might start asking questions like, what's your family like? Do you have any brothers and sisters? How old are they? Where do your parents work? What neighborhood do you live in? What hobbies do you have? Now, these sound like normal questions to you and me. That's how you create a friendship. That's how you learn about each other. But the traffickers are actually gathering information that they're going to leverage later. So maybe, and they're also building trust so that that young person, that vulnerable person, will share more information, share more details, share deeper, intimate details with them. So maybe your young person, your young child might say, yeah, I have an 8-year-old sister. My dad left. He's got a new girlfriend. They got an apartment in another town, and it's just me and my mom and my sister now. And we're trying to figure out if we're even going to be able to stay in this neighborhood. Well, that's a gold mine for a trafficker. That's a gold that information can be leveraged by a predator to influence your child to do something they would have never done otherwise. Maybe a predator might say, I want you to send a picture of yourself in a bathing suit. And your 12-year-old say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take a picture in a bathing suit and send it to you. Okay, well, I know where you live. And the trafficker might say, I know where you live, and I know you've got an 8-year-old little sister. If you won't do it, I'll go have her do it. So this is just one example, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, but this is really happening every day on the internet. This is how these predators operate. And so if you have the conversation proactively today, go talk to your kids today and tell them, hey, not everybody who's on a video game is who they say they are. Not everybody who's on the internet is who they say they are. if something like this ever happens, please come and talk to me. I'm not going to be mad at you because
Mhm.
you're talking to somebody who told you lies or who tricked you into thinking they were 13 years old. I'm not
Mhm.
going to be mad at you. You're not going to get restricted from your video games. I want to be your safety net. I want to be the person that you can trust, because if somebody's targeting your kids, you can go to NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It's missingkids.org. You can make online reports,
Mhm.
and they can help you navigate these conversations with your kids. They have tons of free resources at missingkids.org. They can help you to report if there has been a predator that's reached out to your kid, or even worse, if it's progressed and there's been exploitation. Missingkids.org is where you can go to report it and where you can get it hopefully resolved with law enforcement.
Mhm.
But there's also tons of tools, even to talk to little kids. They've got cartoons on there. They've got ways anybody who's accessing the internet needs to know about the danger. And that means if you're handing your 5-year-old an iPad, you need to have the conversation with them. You wouldn't hand somebody the keys to a Lamborghini and not first tell them how fast it goes, right?
Right.
So
Right.
you want to have the conversation and let them know about those dangers. And missingkids.org is a great resource. They have lots of great tools there.
That's really good. And what's interesting is, well, I understand the example you were trying to share with all the different questions, but most kids don't even get into those questions. So it should be a really big red flag, because I'll ask my kids, like, hey, what is so and so? What, how was their day? I don't know. What's her dad do? I don't know. What's your mom do? I don't know. Where do they live? I don't know. And so they don't even get into conversations with kids their own age like that. And maybe we did when we were younger. They just have a different way of speaking now. So it should be a really good, easy way for them. That doesn't mean, someone who's watching who's a predator right now, like, oh, good, then I won't ask those questions anymore. Fine, whatever. I mean, may the may God expose you right now in Jesus' name. But it's like, the point is that teaching our kids to recognize the red flags. It's like, is that something that somebody should be asking me? And the answer is no. Nobody needs to know anything about your family, about your mom, where you live, any of those things. And I mean, even adults that don't even need to know those things.
There was a girl, I think she was 12 years old. She
Mm-hmm.
was Target, like a grocery store, a department store.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a man following her, and she felt like it just made her uncomfortable. She felt like she was being filmed or followed, and she went and told her parents because
Mm-hmm.
she had a healthy relationship with her parents. And she's like, this guy's creeping me out. I don't feel good. I want to get out of here. And so they at first they thought they would blow it off and she was being dramatic. But she was very persistent. And this was in Arizona. I shared it on social media maybe 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So the parents took her out to the car, and the dad saw the man who his daughter was concerned about
Mm-hmm.
following her in the store. And he went to confront this guy. I don't recommend that.
No.
Predators are irrational at best. They're committing crimes. And so I don't suggest that you go and confront, but do take as much information as you can for law enforcement, description, make and model of the car, the license plate number, what that person is wearing, what they look like, physical description. Those are all really good. Dates, times, stuff like that are important for police reports. But the dad approached the car and he saw the man watching the video of his little girl in the store. And I don't want to be graphic, but the man's pants were disheveled and unbuttoned. So whatever he was doing in the parking lot of Target, thinking about this guy's little, like 12-year-old little girl. So the man called police, which was the right thing to do. And the predator was, this is what people need to know. These predators aren't usually a scary creep in a basement somewhere. This guy was like an attorney, a prosecuting attorney. So, yeah, he was a respected political and business leader in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Not any longer. He lost his job. I believe
Well,
he's
it's good,
in jail now.
it's good that father felt bold enough to do that, because then now that guy's no longer available. And it's interesting that you brought up Target, because Target isn't the problem.
No.
It's the fact. So I want to put that out there so Target doesn't contact us and think that we're not defaming Target. It's big parking lots where people are distracted on their phones, they're not paying attention. It's one of the reasons why people will have those big terrible conversations about, well, I don't understand why there's carts left in the medians in the middle of the grass somewhere. They are not the ones with the kids trying to keep them from predators in the parking lots. Maybe just push the cart to the cart for us. Like, there's so many words I could use that are not kind. But the point is that my kids know, it's one of the things, it's like you teach them, be aware of your surroundings at all times. Mm-hmm. Don't be distracted on your phone. And my kids are old enough that I'm starting to let them further out into the world a little bit because I have to teach them. Otherwise, they're just not going to be ready. And there was a point my son wanted to go to the park with his friends. And I'm like, okay, we will try this. And but to teaching them how to be aware of their surroundings. And what's really cool about the whole thing is that there was a point where some kids made him uncomfortable, picked them up. And I know it's not the same, but kids can be used to trap other kids for predators. And so the point is that by teaching them, be aware, find the park ranger, find a police officer, have 911 on your phone, run away, whatever it is, it's like kick them in the balls. I mean, whatever, right? But the point is teaching them how to be aware. Don't be dismissive. Watch where you're going. Don't be walking with yourself. They're walking. They are looking for people who are distracted, who are aware. And also, so that's also vulnerability, right? The people are just like, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm good. I live in a safe city. I mean, true. But there's a weak point.
Mm-hmm. There in Florida recently, we were watching an episode of Chris Hansen's new show on his network, True Blue, and it's called Takedown. And he was working in Florida on a police sting with this law enforcement agency who's famous for arresting predators and pedophiles. While they were working on this sting in an undercover house, and they were advertising, pretending to be an adult man selling his own child, which is horrific to think about. Mm-hmm. But we need to be aware this is happening in the community. Mm-hmm. Somebody responded to their ad, and he wanted to know if the father was going to stay in the room and watch while he was basically raping the 13-year-old daughter. This man who responded offered to pay to buy the daughter from the father. He was Santa Claus in this community for over 40 years.
Oh my God.
The very detective working the case had a photo of that man in his living room with his children on his lap at Christmas time. And him and his wife are standing, the detective and his wife are standing smiling next to Santa Claus as he's holding his children in his lap. The nonprofit who was working on the operation to offer services, they had already booked Santa Claus for their Christmas party. The sheriff himself was at a Rotary meeting 2 weeks before and has a photograph shaking Santa Claus's hand in a public presentation. He was in parades. He was famous in the community as the Santa Claus that everybody saw at Christmas time. These people find a way to influence the community, to build trust, to make themselves presented as somebody who would never hurt a child, somebody who you can trust with your children. And they're going to use any opportunity that they can, not only to groom the community, to believe that they can be trustworthy, that they would never hurt a child, but also to build that trust with the child, because how could a child say anything against the Santa Claus who everybody loves and celebrate how could a child who's been hurt by that man ever come forward with the story of what happened? Because nobody would believe a little kid saying that somebody who's so venerated in the community has been a predator. So good news, it's a happy ending. The guy's in jail now. He's going to be prosecuted, hopefully, to the fullest extent of the law. And Grady Judd doesn't mess around. So I assume that he's really going to, get what's coming to him for the destruction that he's done to that community. But this
Right.
is what the purpose of the story is to let you know the people that you should be most concerned about are the ones who say that you can trust them, the ones who say they want to be around your kids. Maybe it's a youth pastor, maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's a neighbor, somebody in the community who says, I just feel called to your kid. I want to help. Let me pick them up from soccer practice. I know you're busy. I can drop them off for you. Can your kid come spend the night with my kid? We're going to have a little sleepover. I want to warn parents and caregivers that those are the people that your red flag should go up. They've worked overtime to present themselves as people who can be trusted. And that's exactly why you should be concerned.
I watch too much Law and Order SVU to let any like to me, if my spidey senses come off and it's going to be on a crime show, the answer is no. And I'm glad that you shared all those examples, because we very much we sometimes can unknowingly put our kids in danger. And it's one of the reasons why we all should be making sure we vet the parents before our kids, before the kids go over. And, but there's also, I don't know, I feel called to say this. If you unknowingly exposed your kid to something and they were hurt, don't take on shame. It's like, it's not anything that you did that caused the problem. It's the predator that is the problem, and the victims are the victims. And I just feel like, I don't know why I felt called to say that, but it's just to remember, this is why we are, we as in, I'm helping get this message out, Sandy, and then, Emmy Myers and all of those survivors out there who are just victorious in the walk. They are working so hard to get this out, because the mission is to stop it completely. And I would have got one last question. We're not going to use the word if, when your mission succeeds, what does a safer future look like for the vulnerable children, families, and communities?
I think that kids should be allowed to be kids. I think that we should have a community where children who are naturally curious can explore and ask questions and maybe find little pathways and make mistakes and not have their whole lives destroyed because of it. I think that safety for our communities is traffickers, predators, pedophiles, and anybody who could pay to access a person. The buying and selling of bodies and souls has to end. There are children being sold for sex on the streets of the cities that we live in because there are people who want to buy a child. There are people who are willing to pay for access to a child, to a young person. When we end this practice, when the buying and selling of bodies and souls comes to an end, that means that the people who are looking for an opportunity to purchase and those who are leveraging vulnerabilities so that they can make money, that all of those people will be removed from polite society. They shouldn't be able to have electronic devices and communicate with young people. They shouldn't have access to grocery stores, to parks, to Santa Claus parades. They shouldn't have the ability to reach the young and vulnerable people in our communities. So locking them up, putting them behind bars where they belong is the solution, and it will create a safer community so children can grow and learn and thrive and become who God created them to be without having to spend so much time and energy overcoming the trauma of abuse and trafficking. So that's my hope for the future. I know it's possible. God gives me the strength every day to pursue it. And I'm so honored to have the opportunity to address your audience, bring this message of hope and healing, and hopefully recruit some people to the cause. And if they want to join me, a really great way to start is by connecting on social media, picking up a copy of my book, learning more about my work, and getting involved.
Oh, that's so amazing. I definitely encourage everybody to do that. And so, Sandy, thank you for sharing your story, your expertise, and your unwavering commitment to protect the vulnerable and bring truth into some of the society's darkest places. Your journey is a powerful reminder that God can redeem even the deepest wounds and transform them into mission that changes lives. We appreciate the work you're doing and encourage our listeners to connect with Sandy, learn from her resources, and become a part of the solution. Thanks again, and until next time. Oh, and by the way, everybody, if you know someone who's going through this, or you have connections to law enforcement or teachers, school administrators, all the different things, please send them to Sandy. Sandy, what's the best website?
My website is survivorsandystorm.com, and I'm at Survivor Sandy Storm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. And my book is The Truth About Human Trafficking. It's available at my website, survivorsandystorm.com, or on Amazon or wherever you like to get books, Barnes and Noble. So, yeah, I would love to hear from you too. So send me a private message. Let me know that you heard the interview with Wendy. And I'm just so encouraged. And thank you again for the opportunity to speak with your audience.
You're so welcome. Thanks again.